And in terms of how the public sees it, the Washington Post out with a poll among registered voters. 63% think this meeting that Don Jr. had was inappropriate. 27% think it was appropriate. There's, of course, a partisan breakdown. 33% of GOPers think it was inappropriate. 85% of Democrats think it was inappropriate. Margaret, in some ways, you have the president using something sort of like a babe in the woods excuse for his son, right? Calling him a kid, a good boy, stretching the definition of who I think is considered a boy. Donald Trump Jr. is 39 years old. And so, I mean, what do you make of the White House's messaging on this, particularly from the president?
It's been a tremendous challenge for the White House to figure out how to message this. And it's still hard to tell whether it's because they knew a lot more than they were letting on to, or because they didn't know everything they needed to know, and they're now trying to play catch up. There are some legal complications with the White House trying to figure out what Don Jr. knew, since Don Jr. doesn't actually work for the administration. But there are two elements that happened in the past week that demonstrates why this is a turning point. One is the decision or the revelation of how much of the campaign of the re-election funds are now being used or sequestered away for legal fees. And the second is the White House's decision to bring on Ty Cobb to serve this function inside the counsel's shop. So you now have you have attorneys now who do ethics issues, national security issues, and now a specialized attorney in the counsel's office for Russia. So that Don McGahn, the general counsel, doesn't have to kind of juggle everything else. Plus this, what this shows me is that they are prepared now to dig in for a much longer fight and duration of issues related to this than they initially thought they might need to.
And one of the lawyers is Jay Sekulow, who'll be on our air and on lots of programs.
In the private attorney.
In the private attorney. And he was on our air. And here's what he had to say in terms of the framing of what he thinks went on here.
What law was violated by that meeting? And your experts have said it too, nothing. And at the end of the day, that's what this is about.
I mean, okay, so when you're talking about coordination and collusion, it has to be to do something. But the question is still open about what was the something, right? Is it to, even if it's the adoptions thing, which does not seem very plausible, that is maybe to talk about sanctions, because that's what the adoption response from Moscow was in response to when we passed the Magnitsky Act. That would be technically a violation of the Logan Act, even though nobody enforces it, but that's actually a thing. Was it collusion to actually get the dirt on Hillary Clinton the way that we thought, that it seems to be presented in the emails? That is potentially a thing that people have said, look, if that is the case, then you're talking about maybe violating federal election law, which says that you can't take anything of value, which usually is a financial donation, but could be argued by a good lawyer that it's a dirt on a candidate, on your opposing candidate, is something of value from a foreign entity or source. So all of these open questions still, we cannot say at this point absolutely nothing went wrong. At this point, there's not a full case to be brought up in front of a court, but that's what people are investigating, is what was the goal of this meeting, because this clearly shows some sort of an intent to work together, which could help you establish some sort of